Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and we're delighted to announce this evening we're back for season 2 of the Stargate Syfy cult classic documentary. As you know from season 1, if you have been following the documentary, and an awful lot of you have followed season 1, which was a huge success, over 38 episodes, we have spoken to guest characters and actors who have appeared in Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Consortium, Stargate SG1, Stargate the movie, and Stargate Origins. And for season 2, we're starting off and we're back to Stargate SG1 again. And I'm delighted this evening to be joined by the one and only David McNally from Stargate. And actually, David is a prominent figure in the Stargate SG1, as he's popped up throughout these seasons playing various different characters. He's played the role of Hanno in SG1 in Core 91. He's played a role as Simon in the episode The Demons, and he's played the role of Avrid in the episode Epiphany. I suppose, David, first of all, I just look back on a few of those episodes there today, just featuring on your own sort of clips, and to play a recurring role like you did and not be, say, one of those fictional, mythical characters like an Ugas or one of those sort of alien sort of creatures. Your facial features are prominent in 3 episodes. That must mean that the Stargate really, Stargate producers and directors really like what they saw, that you were able to portray 3 different characters and yet not change costume too much, dare I say.
Not too much, no. I was able to work with MGM quite a bit doing the Outer Limits series. And Mario Azzopardi, who directed the Karai, I had worked with him previously, and he kind of wanted to carry me over into his work on Stargate. And that's how I first got in the door, and then had a great experience with the cast members. And eventually the following year, had an opportunity to audition for the Simon role, and that was with Peter DeLuise, and that was a tremendous experience as well.
And I suppose, David, one thing about your characters, I know they're guest actors, but they aren't 1 or 2 liners. They play a prominent role throughout the episodes in terms of interaction. So there's an awful lot of dialogue and content and backstory to all 3 of the different characters you played. And normally with guest actors, if they play a recurring role, one can be more prominent than the other. But that wasn't the case in terms of the 3 characters you played.
No, I mean, I come from a theater background, so going for a role that has a lot of dialogue is something that I'm comfortable with. And I think they saw that in the audition. And then just the camaraderie that is quickly struck up on the Stargate set is really comfortable and easy to work with, all of those. So the dynamic that I would bring is really based on the text that Brad Wright and Jonathan Glassner would create. And I would just dig into text as a theater actor and pull out every clue I could and try to give that reality in the show.
And David, were you conscious when you were sort of coming back to play a different character that you're saying to yourself, well, as Stargate became more and more popular and a massive audience and spread global, well, I might need to tweak this or tweak that or do something to maybe sort of differentiate myself a tiny bit so that I portray a different angle to my acting ability and get the real feel that I can bring a uniqueness to each character?
Well, each character was written quite differently. In the Karai, playing Hanno, this character was a tribal leader in a sense, quite determined to get justice over teal'c in the episode for killing his father when he was under the control of Apophis. With the Demons, the episode of Demons as Simon, he was very much a kind of Catholic monk, quite timid and quite afraid, very much the opposite of what I portrayed as Hanno. And then in the Stargate Atlantis Epiphany episode, this was more of a spiritual leader, but definitely kind of calm and not timid and certainly not aggressive. So each role had its own personality that helped me to portray them.
And how did you find switching it up from Stargate SG1 to the whole Stargate Atlantis sort of team, different sort of set, different interaction with sort of different sort of cast members? Was it still felt very much that you were going into the Stargate world, or did you notice that tiny bit of a difference?
A little bit of a difference in that the journey of the main characters was much more diverse in terms of storyline. But what I saw was that many of the people that were first ADs and second ADs and sort of up and coming on the SG1 now played pivotal roles as directors and producers within the Stargate Atlantis. So it was a type of series that really grew with the family of the creators.
And David, in terms of the main sort of cast members, obviously when you play a recurring sort of role, you get to know them that bit better than a guest star that's there for maybe a week or so and he goes off again. And you were able to form a camaraderie with the likes of Christopher Judge and Richard Dean Anderson in terms of that even offset or even within shoots that a dialogue could be formed, given on any general conversations, whether it be family sort of matters or stuff like that, that you were on personal first term speaking basis?
Yeah, I was able to socialize with them from time to time. One of the great experiences was I was teaching at a college here in Alberta called Red Deer College, a film acting course. And I was able to bring some of my students into Vancouver to give them the experience of auditioning for various productions. I called up the SG1 team and they said, come on down, bring all your students down. And I just thought it was such a welcoming thing to do. My students were able to tour the sets while they were shooting and kind of experience what a day on the lot would look like. And it was a tremendous experience, learning experience for those students, which I'm sure they'll never forget. But that comes from the comfort and the kindness that that team was able to show to everyone who came to that set.
And David, you mentioned you worked with previous directors before, so obviously Stargate wasn't a first peek into your acting sort of journey for you. But did you notice as the popularity demanded having that on your resume or credits that obviously when you went for further auditions or further sort of roles, that did it play a sort of advantage being associated with that sci-fi character? Did it open up the opportunity to create more and delve more into that sort of universe?
I think I would really have liked to. At the time, it was relatively new when I came to it. I think it was only its second year and when I did the first episode. But like you say, over time, the popularity of that series really took off. And so it was, people would mention it in auditions. What was it like? They'd be interested in the experience. For a time there, I used to say I made my living on other planets, just playing all different types of roles. And I didn't really pursue the whole sci-fi genre in any way. And being in Alberta, often it's a Western. So knowing how to ride horses and shoot guns seems more important in terms of getting work. But when I go to Vancouver, it really took off there, and I'd find myself auditioning for more and more opportunities where I would work in space.
And David, tell me, what was the working week like for you, your experience on the set of Stargate from the day you came in terms of shooting, in terms of table reading, obviously being a guest star as well. Obviously, there were right in tune and right in sync working with guest stars. Did you feel that it was a smooth sort of transition from the moment you walked in the door to the moment that you were on set shooting? Was there many sort of rewrites or script retakes or sort of dialogues that had to be changed? Was it a very sharp, smooth operation?
We all really respect the writers, and so you always give them the first run and whatever, in terms of a table reading. And then the main cast would often make suggestions based on the characters that they were playing, because they really were rooted in their characters. And so they were able to make changes that would further the knowledge of the audience into who they were. Funny story, in coming to play the role of Simon, who was quite a desperate character. I had driven the 13 hours to Vancouver overnight to get there for an audition at 9 o'clock in the morning. Arrived at a friend's place, went in to kind of say hi. And I asked him, I was just in my socks. I was driving in my socks. I had my wallet and my sides for the audition on me. And I said, is my van safe out there? And he said, oh, yeah, but you should bring your bike in, because I had the bike in the back of the van. I came outside and my van was gone. All my clothes, all my shoes. everything was gone. It was stolen. And so I borrowed a pair of boots and a jacket from my friend, and I went to the audition, which happened within hours of having my vehicle stolen. And I was very desperate. And I think that helped me get the role. And because Peter DeLuise really saw something in me that he wanted to utilize in that character. Just, you know, it was a good experience on set. Everything we were doing was fun. There was never really a lot of pressure. And the directors would take that pressure off and kind of lighten the mood if anybody got too serious. And I think that contributed to the success of the series.
And how did you find working with Amanda Tapping in what is a sort of, dare I say it, a male testosterone sort of driven show in terms of most of the main characters are male, and obviously she's the female presence in nearly all of the scenes. Now, dare I say, there has been an awful lot of good female presence within the Stargate throughout the years, but in most of the scenes, Amanda Tapping is there with maybe 2 or 3 guys, and she's dialoguing. How did you find in terms of her, how she portrayed or how she was able to carry herself between takes, working long days, long shooting hours with maybe 3 or 4 guys, the same guys the whole time?
I have tremendous admiration for her. She was particularly welcoming and kind in each of the experiences that I had with the Stargate world. She shines as an actor and as a person. She's very real, very much who you think she is based on the show. Intelligent and just one of the warmest people to work with, and again kept it fun. You know, sometimes when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on creating something, the clock is ticking, but Amanda in particular would just keep things light, and of course always being professional and knowing exactly what she needed to do for each scene.
And David, in terms of costume and obviously the costume makers and the designs and the sets in terms of Stargate, did you find yourself coming in maybe 2 or 3 hours before your actual shoots just to obviously portray those characters, to have the different sort of takes on your sort of costume, obviously to try and differentiate you? And was wardrobe a fun experience for you?
Wardrobe's always a fun experience. Again, coming from the stage, I give tremendous respect to wardrobe and all the work that they do. Often they're creating those costumes overnight. So whatever they tell me to do, I do. And then I try to be particularly careful when it comes to lunch and make sure that I've got a jacket over the costumes. I don't want to cause them any stress or duress in having to clean something because I've been sloppy. But each of costume was unique and very comfortable, which is important for me as an actor because I want to be as mobile as possible to discover things in terms of the physicality of the character. So I think it was just very admirable work right through wardrobe, top to bottom.
Okay, David. And David, in terms of Stargate, in terms of your 3 characters now, which one sort of, I know you're passionate and actors will never differentiate a character in terms of its importance one over the other, but obviously there is a certain character that there's maybe a certain scene or a certain line or a certain moment that sort of sticks with him. And in terms of your experience with Stargate, which is that moment that particularly sticks out with you?
You know, in the episode of the Karai, in the courtroom scene, had a long, I'd say about a 2-page monologue in which I kind of tear apart teal'c for murdering my father. And for me, just being allowed to kind of take it through that time when you're running film for that length of time, you want to be perfect, but at the same time, you want to be able to discover what it is that you're saying and the emotions that you're feeling as you go through it. And I really appreciated the cast and director for just allowing me to take that chunk, because they could have cut it into smaller pieces, which kind of breaks up the continuity and the drive of the character. But they allowed me to kind of relish in the monologue, and that's something that I really enjoy doing.
And David, before we finish up with the sort of final question about Stargate, and it's the sort of specific question that I've asked throughout all of season 1, and I know that I'm going to ask you as well. But first of all, I hear you have been to our Emerald Isle country in the past, and you've dare I say, you didn't get robbed like you were in Canada anyway, in terms of your driving experience here in Ireland.
I really enjoyed the driving was a bit crazy. I was happy to go back there. My grandmother was from Dublin, my grandfather from Belfast, and they came over in the late 20s. And not many family members have had a chance to go back and visit our cousins all over Ireland, but I have. And I traveled from north to south and east to west, and my wife and I, and we had such a lovely time. The people were so welcoming, lots of bed and breakfasts. Enjoyed the food, which I didn't expect. Having been to England, I thought, oh, maybe this, but the food was way better in Ireland. And just overwhelmed, throughout it, I was overwhelmed by the warmth of the people.
Okay. And David, finally now that time comes, and let's pretend there was a Stargate encyclopedia, a dictionary, sort of such. All of the characters who played roles in sort of Stargate were listed under that. And they came to your 3 characters now that you've played. And they asked you, David McNally, to summarize Hanno, Simon, and Avrid in 2 sentences for each character. How would you like those sort of sentences to read? Summarize them up.
I would say that it's humanitarian in protecting his people. In all of the characters, there was a truth of that it was a sort of father figure, a character that wanted to make sure the well-being of his society was improving and not in danger.
On that note, David McNally, you sort of dodged that bullet. You answered that brilliantly. Thanks for joining us this evening. Our first in many episodes to come in terms of season 2, Stargate Sci-Fi Cult Classic documentaries. David, thanks for sharing your memories of what was a prominent time for you and a busy time for you within the Stargate franchise, within Stargate SG1 and Stargate Atlantis. You played the role of Hanno, you played the role of Simon, you played the role of Avrid, and you're forever indebted in the Stargate sort of universe, which sort of will continue to spawn year after year. No doubt we hear of new movies, new TV series down the line, so the popularity will ever grow. You're forever attached to that franchise. Thanks for sharing your memories, and please God, sometime in the near future that fan might turn up outside your door. But for the moment, David McNally, take care and God bless.
Thank you so much, James. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you.